So hello everyone, we are now live on Hangouts on Air for the Avocado release 57. So this is where we are going to go through what we have done on Sprint 57, which culminates in Avocado version 57. And then we're going to talk briefly about what we will be doing for 58, which is going to be the next sprint and release after the holidays, New Year's, and everything. So let me go ahead and share my screen. One kind of abnormality that we have during the sprint, it was not the only one, but it did happen a lot during this sprint, is that we had a lot of activities that were not really tracked as cards, but we'll mention them as well, and rest assured that they will make into the release notes. So one very nice change, which is visible through this card, is that we now have two things. The first one is that we have an expanded set of GOS images covering a whole set of new architectures, including Power, ARM, and S390. So we actually held this for a while because we had no place to store those images. We now have a new server hosting both the repo files, so the RPM packages that are generated on each new release, and also now an expanded set of GOS images. So this should help people doing virtualization testing using Avocado VT on those architectures, but it will also help anybody that wants to run their tests and they need images for different architectures, because this is going to be hooked up very soon with the VM image utility library in Avocado itself. So two possible use cases there. Lukash, it's going to briefly demo how this actually works with Avocado VT. So Lukash, take it over.
So basically, maybe just mention that JOS is a minimized version of Fedora. So it's just Fedora created with Kickstart to be really small, and it includes Python 2.6 and Python 2.7 and Python 3. And it's a default image for Avocado VT. So if you use Avocado VT, you're on x86, you're used to just run Avocado VT Bootstrap, which prepares everything, and it checks that you have the latest, greatest JOS image available, and eventually downloads or uncompresses it on your machine, so you can then just run Avocado run boot, and that would use that image which was provided by us, so you don't have to prepare anything. And now, good thing is that we edit those ARC64, PPC64, PPC64LE, and S390 images. So you can just say, okay, I want JOS S390, X, hit enter, and it verifies that I don't have that image in my images library. I can download it. Obviously, it would take a while. Then it would untar it, and I would be able to use Avocado run boot --vt machine type S390. Obviously, I would have to disable AVM on my machine, but idea is the story. There was one minor change to the Bootstrap code, and that is that by default, it only downloads the architecture you are currently using. So before, it always downloaded the x86-64. Right now, it tries to get the architecture you're using. So on S390 machine, it would have downloaded S390 image. So I think it's even less odd than before. Any question regarding JOS? If not,
yeah, no, I think I can just like briefly expand on your demo because I already have the at least a power image downloaded. So let me just see if things will work. So this is after Bootstrap. So I'm just saying that I'll use architecture PBC64, machine type 60 PBC64 using the right emulator and the right GOS. Oh, and no, I don't have the environment that ready. But I can just do this. Yes, and if we look at Avocado job results latest, I think the best way to look at this is get the serial console. So it's booting, and yes, here it is, the Power GOS image booting. Fedora 27. So it's just that convenient. You don't have to do any setup. You can just like reuse same machine. Like the same approach, but with new machine types. So thanks a lot, Lukash, for creating the images, and hopefully this is going to be useful to a lot of people. Okay, next one is the implementation of a verbose mode for the picked varianter. So last release, we introduced a new varianter implementation based on the picked, which is a combinatorial, independent combinatorial generator. That initial version only showed the variants themselves, but not the contents of them, and the content is controlled by the verbosity of them. So Amador went ahead and added this extended mode that actually shows when verbose is enabled, it actually shows the content of the variant. So that is quite useful. Next one, we fixed a bug in which Go tests would be discovered as kind of broken tests because the system would not be able to actually run them. So now if the Go binary is not available, we just say that we cannot, we do not discover the tests actually. So it's a usability difference there, and we feel that this is more consistent. Avocado Docker, use our repo to install latest and greatest avocados. So this one is done, but there's just one minor caveat that we have to mention. So for the last release, it was pretty close to the Fedora 27 release. So our own repo does not have yet the Fedora 27 packages for the previous release for 56, but it will have it for 57. And so this already considers a Fedora 27 package available for the next release, and will create Docker images based on that version. So basically, Lukash updated the Docker file to consider that. And this old repo is still up. It will continue for another month, but then later we'll have to update that as well for the new server that is now hosting our repos and our asset files. Next one was to get rid of the faux params. This was part of some work that started on the subject of test parameters. This is one of a few pull requests that were merged. This is the initial one in which we marked the deprecation of the parameters, and this was actually the pull request that removed it. So there's a lot of activity on the parameter side, and besides removing the default parameters, which is an interface that we, like I said before, on the previous pull request, we decided that we won't be supporting anymore. So besides that, one other thing that we removed was this interface, which is the one in which you can get the parameters via the get attribute interface. So this is also gone on this release. And if you still have tests that set the full parameters the old way, and the full way, like the old way, is where you do, let me see if there's an easy doc. Yeah. If you still do this on your tests and you set the full params and you expect them to be respected, you find out that these are not available anymore. So this has been removed from the documentation and from the code. To achieve the same thing, you should do self.params.get and provide a default value at that time. This is the way you should proceed with the full parameters now. Am I forgetting anything, Lukash, on this topic that you...
Maybe worth mentioning that one of the most common things are timeout, and you can
True.
still set the default timeout by setting self.timeout parameter
Yeah,
of the
this is
test.
actually, yeah, that's well said. And this is something that it's actually done here. So I think we can just use that as an example. So one of the tests, one of the examples tests was exactly timeout test. And this is how you can set it, because it's a class attribute that is respected by the test runner. So instead of doing the full params, you just set the timeout, and this is specific to timeout. But the other way of setting the full parameters should be my value equals self.params.get, the thing you're looking for, and setting a default value there. This is the new recommended way. All right. We also fixed a bug in which the test reference was not working for both directories and for simple tests, if I remember correctly. Yes. So for simple tests and for directories, the filter that you can pass after the usually the file name or the directory name in this case was not being respected, but it's now fixed and you can filter accordingly. So I was mentioning that we had a lot of changes that were not tracked on Trello cards, and this is partially due to tasks that are bigger, and also to tasks that are contributions from other people. So, like, just to give one example of things that were merged, we have a new plugin, which is the result uploader plugin. This thing actually came with another pull request that improved the results DB plugin. So basically, we have users running a combination of file server to store, like a central file server to store the raw result files, and also the results DB plugin and a results DB instance to gather the summary of the results. It's now possible to have inside the results DB instance a link to the files that are uploaded, say with this plugin, for example. So it's pretty convenient how you can centralize both, like the summary, the database of results, and the results files as well. So this was contributed by Dimitri. And it's a new feature we have now. Another example of external contributions, since people are not writing to Trello, but it was support for S390X in our utility libraries, so people can now check CPU counts on that platform transparently. Again, as I said before, there were fixes and work on the parameters system, so this is a pull request was merged but is not mentioned. Sysinfo got ported to use our own library, utility library, which is Avocado run process. It removed a bit of custom code related to process there, and I'm certain that there are a lot more, like Python 3 port has improved, and other fixes that have been merged there. So this is the status of the release. I did some counting. We have 92, I think, new commits on this release. They will be converted into a nice to read changelog. So if you're upgrading for the previous version, you know what to expect. And do we have any questions at this point regarding the changes that we got in during this release? I see that Satish is also in, so if he has questions. If not, we can proceed to what we consider the second phase of this meeting, which is planning. And to be consistent with our, I hear some sounds. Okay.
I'm good, we can go, yeah.
All right. So yeah, on for the next release, we have to kind of adjust to the reality of the time of the year. For most of us, it means that there's going to be at least a 2-week cycle of PTO at this point, and we already have quite some activities on work in progress. I'll go through them briefly. But basically, we have decided that this new sprint, unless something comes along after we return from PTO, from the holidays, we can make some tweaks in here, but it's basically going to be about continuity of the tasks, of the long tasks that we have already been working on. So basically, Lukács has found an issue with Yum Downloader, and this has 2 consequences. The first one is that Yum Downloader is writing to the process like a terminal, right, Lukács?
Well, basically, if you run Yum Downloader from a terminal, it outputs the name of the file it's downloading. But if you run the same to a pipe, not to a terminal, it won't.
So it checks that the output
is kind of inconvenient, and so I'll try to get some opinion from Yum Download developers. And we have a new part in library which used to use this to get the file name of that file. So I'll also improve it a bit, because this is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we use expect or some kind of
right. And the second consequence is that you're going to send a v2 on this, so that you don't need 2 executions, because the URL can change between the 2 if the cache is evicted, right? Okay, so this is a work in progress item. Another one which we expect to be moved to done right away is the update of documentation and asset, like download files in Avocado VT, to point to the new server, which we mentioned during the GOS explanation. One task that is ongoing, I did some debugging on this during this sprint, is that the picked upstream project has an open issue about high CPU load when processing UTF files. This was opened by somebody else, but I faced the same issue when running their tests, which is a requirement for the other task that we have, which is packaging this on Fedora and EPEL. And I did some debugging and found a place where it gets stuck. So next step here is to follow up with a patch to fix this bug. Amador has worked on this, if I remember correctly, on 2 different occasions. It's more complex than it seemed, according to him. So he still has this in work in progress, and given the holidays, this is supposed to be here for a while. So this is the card that actually tracks the packaging of Pict, as I said before, on Fedora and EPEL. It has some basic packaging already merged. So this is on upstream Pict spec file. But to push this to Fedora, we need a lot more, and a lot more includes checking support, like self-test support. So this is where that bug that I mentioned previously comes into play. The other 3 items that we have are mostly unchanged for the last few weeks. The first one is that the first 2 here in the list are closely related. So we are adding to Avocado VT possibly all the requirements in a Python PyPI standard way. During testing, we found out that setup.py put some restrictions on how you can install files. So you cannot install outside of the environment you're installing into. We went through the approaches that we can take here, and we found out that the best thing to do is just install files into the virtual env environment, or not outside the environment that setup.py considers the right environment, and then deal with things like /etc system-wide in the RPM packages. So did I miss anything here, Lukash?
Not really.
Okay.
It's just that we know at least of one person who having problem with that.
Yes, it's
So
listed
basically,
here.
we want to fix it, and it's just that we had other bugs and things to tackle first.
Yeah. The problem that I think everybody that does software development is aware of, right? Time is really limited, and sometimes we don't have the resources to tackle them all, which is true for this issue as well. We don't see it like really blocking or breaking users' usage of Avocado, but we are aware that this is a problem and we want to fix this. So basically, we have test process writing to standard out and interfering with the runner. Actually, they're cooperating, and they shouldn't. The test process should be completely isolated. So this is something we've looked at few different approaches. You can see even from the pull request, one from Lukash, one from myself. But this requires like some deeper changes. So it's coming. It's not right there yet, but it's coming. So this is also what's going to be making the next release, because we expect those items to be finished by the next release. And on the sprint backlog, we have a few items. This one is brand new. It manifests on new environments, and I put it in work in progress because it's kind of blocking the self-test on the release. So I intend to look at this right away. So basically, it's a fix that only affects the maintainers, so a small group. When we do make spell on each release, new versions of PY-linked behave differently. They check content inside comments, inside doc strings, and it generates a lot of misspellings, which are not what we want. Another one is, this is tracking one issue that was posted on upstream. So sysinfo not getting collected post-test guest run. We intend to look at the issue and act accordingly. So this serves as a reminder for that. Enable parallel check on Travis. This one is reminiscent of Luka's original work on this, in which we had parallel checking, but because of some problems, we had to disable that on Travis. Let's look at enabling it again. Then we have discuss a way to control the export of parameters and environment variables. This is another card related to the parameter work. What we have seen is that there are some test suites that actually depend on environment variables, and when we pass all the parameters we have as environment variables unchanged, we may be doing things that the test itself, the test runner and the test writer do not want to happen. So we want to have a way of saying, please pass all the parameters as environment variables, or no, just pass some of them, or no, mask them with a prefix or suffix or something like that. So this is where a discussion would come, showing how you could control the export of parameters as environment variables. And we ourselves know of at least one test suite that is used a lot on our team that depends on this. Next one, it's still in work in progress, but as I showed you guys before, there's been a lot of activity on the parameter side, like cleaning up the old interfaces, some refactor. There is one open pull request that actually moves some of the code that was originally parameter uh, out that was core, moved to optional plugins. There's some extended tests also in another pull request on the tree, which is the basic interface of parameters. So basically this topic is pretty much alive, but we haven't tackled this card because it kind of restricts the concept. But we are definitely working on this. Another one which we have created recently and we intend to look and is that Lukash sent a compatibility fix, and he noticed that he got a weird behavior. This weird behavior is documented here, in which using the Mookstree plugin, clashes are coming out in a confusing way, so they should clash an error, right, Lukash? But they are not.
But the thing is that I use the MOOCs path, and it should not clash, but it should
Oh,
report the
right.
value 5 because of the path. And in the params, it looks like it did not. So maybe it's just some. It was last minute change, so maybe it's my error on my side. But
Okay.
if there is no typo, there is a bug.
Yeah. So this is something we intend to investigate right away as well, and that's why it has this position on the Sprint backlog. And after we triage them, we may mark it as a bug. And this again is an old card. I actually did some triaging again because it's old. We need to recheck if this is still true. I remember checking and finding out that this does not happen anymore. But again, I have to go through it and actually mark it as something resolved. But if I remember correctly, this is not happening anymore, but we have to double check. So this is what we think we are going to be doing for the next release. This part of the meeting has another purpose, which is to hear from our users and see if there are any like urgent features or things that you guys consider important and that we should consider for the next sprints. Of course, one way to influence is to ask for features to be included. One other really effective way of doing that is sending pull requests. Anyway, this is the time in which you guys get to talk and say that, oh, I see that you guys are planning to do this, and it would really be nice to have that in the in the upcoming release. And if we manage to have enough resources to do so, we will try to do so. So any comments, special feedbacks, or requests for the next sprint? If not, let me share my screen again. Lukash has already named the new release. It's called Journey to the Christmas Star for obvious reasons. And about release 57, you guys can expect it to hear on the mailing list and be able to download this new version either later today in my time zone or early tomorrow on your time zone if nothing goes wrong, which hopefully won't because we ran the test and things are pretty much sound. So yes, release 57 Star Trek Discovery is coming later today, and 58 it's probably going to be a release for the second week or the third week of January, probably most probably third week of January, given the holidays. So having said all that, I just want to thank you guys for attending this meeting. And if there's anything else now, it's the time to say it. If not,
Hello.
hi.
Hi, Clever. Yeah. Good morning. So we're seeing Travis CA failure on Avocado VT. Is that anything known issue?
Yes, it is. It
Okay.
is a known issue. Lukash actually just sent me a link on why and how it's failing. So yes, we do intend to address it as well, like right away. Lukash, do you want to comment on it?
And to address what
The Travis failures on Avocado VT.
Oh yeah. I don't know like what's happening. It's probably some improved checked in like versions because Travis keeps updating their environment. So
Yeah.
But we have to tackle that eventually.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's something to do, at least from what I looked, it may be something with inspect on those environments. Yeah. So yeah, it's something definitely that we want to address. Sandbox and name. Yeah. So let me go ahead and create a card here on work in progress, not work in progress, on the backlog, and actually track that, and just to give more visibility. So Avocado VT trace CI fading. And we have many sources of where this is fading. So okay, so we're looking to that right after the other release tasks. And I think, is there anything else, Satish?
Nothing right now, Clever. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. You guys have nice holidays. And we'll see you guys next year now.
Yeah, sure. Happy Christmas and advance Happy New Year. And
Yep.
yeah. Happy
All right.
vacation too. Yeah. Thank you.
To all of you too. To all of
Yeah.
you and your families.
Yeah. Sure.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.